Grandma?
Velma. It's simple behavior modification. To cause a dog to discontinue any action, you simply flick it on the nose. Observe. Scoot. See? Oh!
Sick, Grandma! Bad, Grandma!
Welcome back to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunana. Tonight's topic is animal behavior, and joining us is animal behaviorist from Australia, Matt Lowe. Welcome back to our second segment, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Now, that's a nice video we just showed with Freddie Prinze Jr., a movie called Scooby-Doo Sacred Island.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about I understand you were also involved with that movie.
Sure, yes, I was. Yeah, we had the cat, as you saw,
Yeah.
and we had Scooby-Doo. Obviously, Scooby-Doo was a CGI
Yeah.
dog that you saw, but Scooby-Doo didn't start out as a CGI dog. Scooby-Doo started out as a real dog, which is a Great Dane, which we had to source and we had to train. So Scooby-Doo, the real dog, came on the plane, okay, and sat in the seat, not upright like that, just sat on the bum like a dog would normally sit. And we had to train the cat right opposite Scooby-Doo to be able to hiss on cue. And
Wow.
if you notice, you probably didn't notice when you saw the film clip,
Yeah.
but have a look where the cat's eyes are looking. The cat's looking at the trainer. So it can hiss on cue, it stays on cue, and it leaves that person's lap and runs down the aisle on cue. When I say on cue, these are cues mean I'm telling you to sit, I'm telling you to hiss, I'm telling you to come here now, okay? Obviously these are all hand cues because we can't verbalize it because we're on set.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that took a little while to train because cats generally are a little more scared around lots of people than what dogs are.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more challenging, but as I said earlier on in the last segment was that the training principles were the same, the application was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But you can see the end result, it worked out just fine.
No, I mean, it was seamless. It was you know,
it was great.
It looked like it was all spontaneous.
Yeah, and I think we got that in about 4 takes.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, let's talk about training cats because first segment before we stop for a break, you said that you wouldn't agree with that saying that cats are more difficult to train than dogs.
Yeah.
Now, you know, from people who know animals in a little way, like me and probably a lot of people watching now, they would probably think, why would you say that? I mean, anyone who's had a cat in the house would say that, you know, this animal is is really, you know, very difficult to, it's almost impossible to get a cat to do something you want to do. Whereas a dog, you give me a dog, I can probably have that dog, you know, shaking,
Yeah.
maybe within, you know, a couple of minutes maybe, or even 30 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So why would you say it's actually easier, or it's not necessarily true, it's harder to train a cat than a dog?
Well, because cats respond to stimuli
Yeah.
the same as any animal.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just the way you approach them. The way you will approach a dog will be that you'll be able to walk straight up to a dog and for a handshake, for example, and just grab its paw. Well, you can't really do that with a cat because a cat will pull away. A
Yeah.
cat will need to want to come to you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the way you can do that is through the means of positive reinforcement. Okay? Positive reinforcement means basically I present a stimulus, something you want, and you
Sure.
get a positive reinforcement. So again, with the same principle as the dolphin, going to touch the nose of the dolphin, you go to touch the foot of the dolphin or the paw, I'm sorry, not the dolphin, the cat we're talking about.
Yeah.
The foot of the cat, and you give the cat a reward.
Sure.
Give the cat a reward. Give the cat a reward. So as you go to touch the foot, the animal knows foot means reward. Now what I can do is I can say, I'm not touching your foot. I might actually have my hand that much further away from the foot.
Yeah.
And the cat will say, well, why aren't I getting a reward? It'll make a movement to your hand.
Yeah.
That's what your reward.
Which species is smarter, dogs or cats?
Gee whiz, I'd have to say cats.
Really?
I'd have to
Oh,
say
wow.
cats. Cats are very smart
Yeah.
because
There's a long pause there, huh?
I had
So
to
there
think
you
about
go.
it. I had to think about it because some
Yeah.
dogs are very clever.
Yeah.
But as a general rule of thumb, cats are smarter. Cats get to do what they want. And they dig their toes in and people give up.
Yeah. Is it true that you have to fight for a cat's affection? Like they don't submit as easily as dogs do? Because dogs are easy. I mean,
Yeah,
you
dogs
get
are
home,
easy,
they
yeah.
jump on you. You do it once, twice with some treats. They're there. They're on you. But cats, Is that true that you have to
It's
fight
not
for it?
entirely true because,
Yeah.
you know, let me give you an example. There are sometimes when you come home and you sit on your chair,
Yeah.
and the cat jumps up and sits on your lap and starts getting comfortable. You're not
And stays there for a long time.
Stays there for a
Yeah.
long time. You're not
Yeah.
fighting for the cat's attention. But if a cat doesn't want your attention,
There you go.
it's difficult. Whereas a dog, it'll want your attention all the time. But when the cat doesn't want your attention, you have to ask yourself the question, why doesn't it want the attention? Because you're trying to communicate with the cat like you communicate with the dog. It's not the same. Again, it comes back to understanding the language of each different species. Once you understand the language, the communication becomes easier.
Yeah. Now, how do you understand their language? How do you get into the mind of a cat or a dog? How do you do it?
Well,
I mean, do you go back to what they are? I mean, what the species is really about? Like you said, cats are basically pride. I mean, they are descendants. They are cats.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
cats are by nature congregate in prides, basically. You know. So
Typically,
is that what you do?
you have to, with each particular species, be it birds, cats, dogs, dolphins, whatever it happens to be, you go back to how they communicate as a social order within their group. Understand the way they communicate from a language point of view, okay? Then you take that language and you speak the same language to the animal and you pair it with training techniques. One of the training techniques is also positive reinforcement, which I spoke about,
Yeah.
but it's not limited to that. But in order to get inside the animal's head, you have to know how they speak. So go back to the beginning. How do they live? How do they interact between other animals? Once you understand that, then you can adopt a methodology on communication.
That's a lot of work, huh? I mean,
It is a lot of work.
It is, right?
It is a lot of
Yeah.
work. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. But you know what? The end result is worth it. It's so exciting when you can see the penny drop. Like, imagine you're trying to talk to an animal. You don't understand what they're saying. It doesn't understand what you're saying. But then there's a breakthrough. And once they understand and that penny drops, they want to learn. And you just go from good to better to great. And then you can see the end result.
Wow,
They're
wow.
happy. You're happy. It's very, very satisfying.
Bravo. It's precisely this communication disconnect between your pet, whether it's a dog or a cat, and the owner, is what's the cause of misbehavior
Of course.
in the house, which is a great cause of strain and stress for many pet owners.
Oh, for many pet owners
Yeah.
and the animals as well. You never have a bad animal. What it comes down to is basically for lack of better words, it's an ignorant owner. They don't know. They just treat their pets like they treat people. They expect their pets to understand human language, and when they don't, they get frustrated. So what's their response to frustration? The animal, it's confused, doesn't know what to do. So what is its response? It shuts down or starts doing what they call adversive behavior, like barking or biting.
Becoming
or
destructive,
chewing.
or things like that.
And these are all stress-related behaviors.
Yeah.
And it's all got to do with it. We don't understand each other.
Yeah, I mean, clearly having a pet is really a huge responsibility because it is a lot of work
Oh, yes.
to properly manage and raise a pet the right way that both the owner and the animal
Yes.
both are in harmony and happy.
Yes.
It takes a lot of work. What are the common mistakes? You mentioned that a lot of people treat their dogs like they do treat children or treat people, and I guess it is a common problem, a common mistake of pet owners.
Sure,
So
yeah.
should you treat them like animals? Is that it? I mean, like a beast, basically. And, because
Yeah.
like a person, you can reason with maybe, using your own language. But how would you discipline an animal?
Well,
Corporal punishment?
no. It's not like that. You know,
Yeah.
you need to go back a little bit further than that. And it starts, let's take dogs, for example. It starts from when they're a puppy. They need to get the proper socialization and exposure. They need to associate with other dogs. They need to be able to learn to read body language. Who's dominant, who's submissive, who's in the middle, what's good, what's bad. They need to go to the shops. They need to see cars. They need to be around lots of people so that they understand what is a threat, what's not a threat. If you do that in the early stages of their puppyhood, okay, as they get older, you're going to have a far better dog. In the early stages, the way people should be communicating with their dog is they should be, I guess you'd call it a leader, a pack leader. Now, a pack leader is not somebody who dominates dogs, who is aggressive towards dogs, for
Yeah.
example, using the dog example.
Yeah.
It's somebody who can lead a pack. It's somebody who the dogs look to and say, this is the leader.
The alpha.
The alpha, yeah. And that's not, when you say alpha, it shouldn't be in a derogatory or negative way. It's in a positive way. I'm going to look after my pack. Yeah. When dogs don't feel that they've got one, it's innate in them to step up and be that. Yeah. So from when dogs are a puppy, it's important that you teach them how to eat. For example, they don't eat until you tell them to eat. That they walk properly on their lead. They sit, they stay, they come, they go. If there's something there, you say leave it. These are all little psychological tactics which puts you in a position of authority.
Yeah. No.
So in people's terms, when people say authority or you try to be the boss, it conjures up some sort of bad association, or people feel a little bit tense with it. But in the animal world, it's not like that at all. They don't have egos. They just want to know where they stand. And when they know where they stand, there's harmony.
But you know, the animal world is also pretty violent, right? I mean, like within the pack or within their pride, you know, there are tussles, there are, you know, fights to exert dominance. How do you, I mean, do you ever harm or hurt in the course of training, like inflict some sort of, you know, pain?
No, because if I was to do something like that, then what am I training? Because if I'm inflicting pain on an animal, or anyone that is inflicting pain on an animal, remember, everything is training. If you're inflicting pain, which is a negative stimuli, what are you teaching the animal? You're teaching it a fear. Do you want your animals to be scared of you? No.
What if it does something wrong? I mean, how do you convey that message that it is wrong? You use maybe aggressive voice or loud reprimand. Is that what you do?
No. What we can do. Let's just say, what's an example? The dog is about to eat someone else's food.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say it's about to eat food off the table.
All right.
And you're there, and you can see the dog is about to sniff it. You say no. When the dog stops, reinforce the dog. What are you reinforcing the dog for? You're reinforcing the dog for stopping. So now when you say no, it actually has a power, but it also has a positive connotation.
Interesting.
They're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or if you say, if they've got a mat near the door, you can say, go sit on your mat. And you point the dog to the mat, right? You guide it to the mat. A mat just like a mark.
Sure.
Yeah. So the dog's not running all over the house.
Yeah.
You guide the dog with food to the mat. The dog sits on the mat. As soon as the dog sits on the mat, it gets food.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if the dog comes off the mat, you say, on your mat. The dog steps back, gets food. So now suddenly you've got a dog that is in your pack, you've got control, it's not running all over the house.
So we go back to positive reinforcement all the time.
Everything does.
Yeah.
Everything does.
Do you use choke chains?
We have used choke chains in the past, but the thing is all different techniques of actually walking a dog can be used poorly or correctly. Yeah? It's like saying, well, gee, do you drive a fast car? That's dangerous. Well, not if I drive it carefully, you know, because I know how to drive.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't recommend to a novice to do anything like that. I think they should use just a normal collar, not a choke collar, because a novice person doesn't understand the techniques behind it, and you can hurt the dogs.
No, because
by
some
using them
trainers,
poorly.
some trainers here use a choke chain as a means for training. Like, okay, they shouldn't do this. Give them a yank, so at least they get, you know, choked.
Well, I think without seeing that situation, just going on what you've said there, I think it can be used poorly as a choke, but sometimes they're called check chains. What it does sometimes is it distracts their attention. So if used properly, you can pull back on it just a little bit, just like tugging your shirt.
Just to get their attention.
And they get their attention. Hey, come back, back, or stop, or sit, or heel, whatever it happens to be. Because you know what dogs like. You've had dogs before. If dogs get a focus and they're on something, it's hard to get their attention back.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So I'm not saying that a check chain is 100% right, but I'm saying if used in the correct way, it doesn't conjure up all these bad opinions that people have of it.
Okay, last question before we pause for a break. What about the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Do you believe in that?
That is so far from the truth. So far from the truth. Yeah.
So how come it became a cliche? You know, a cliche becomes a cliche.
Because I think, you know what I think, as dogs get older, they're just like set in their ways. They couldn't be bothered. They're happy just to sleep all day and eat and sleep.
The energy level goes down.
The energy level goes down, so their care factor is almost zero. But that's got more to do with the person than the dog, because the person just says, oh, exactly what I said, they're old, whatever, and you start putting human emotion on them as well. But you know, have a look out on Australia, for example. On the land, there's a lot of old dogs that are still herding sheep, still going to the day they die. They love it.
So it's never too late or to train your dog or
never
to train your cat.
late. Never too late. With the techniques that I've got and the techniques I can offer, I can train dogs of any age.
Excellent. So Matt, we have paused for another break, but guys, stick around because more of animal behavior with animal behaviorist Matt Lowe on Philippines Uncut.